And General Secretary of the Korean Friendship Association in the U.S., Martin Joel, joins us now live to discuss the situation on the Korean Peninsula. Martin, very warm welcome to the program. So we are seeing growing tension in the region. So how will this all play out? What can we expect?
Well, what we can expect is that the United Nations will continue to bully North Korea, which is effectively what's happening. There have been over 6,000 nuclear tests in the history of the United Nations and over 9,000 satellite launches, and this is the first time that any country has ever been condemned or even sanctioned for that activity. It's clear that the United Nations, and the Security Council in particular, is interested only in maintaining the current balance of world hegemony and isn't interested in independent nations acquiring the ability to defend themselves, even in the face of the lack of any kind of peace treaty, which is of the fault of the United States government, not of the North Koreans, who have been pursuing peace ever since the armistice agreement was signed.
The UN claims the sanctions won't affect ordinary citizens of the country, of the communist state. Do you go along with that?
I definitely do not. Sanctions historically have always hurt the people, whether it's been in Iraq, Iran, anywhere where they've imposed sanctions, the people always suffer. There's just no way around it. When you start limiting what kind of access people have to basic goods and commodities, or even more luxurious goods, as they so call them, you're also limiting people's access to, those things. As regular people will have access to those things as well under ordinary circumstances, and now they won't. And I don't think that it's ever been demonstrated in the history of sanctions that they work. We've never seen a government fall apart. The embargo on Cuba placed upon by the United States hasn't resulted in any kind of government change or any kind of radical transformation. All of that it's really just showmanship. They don't like the fact that North Korea is asserting itself in world politics.
Yes, and America's UN envoy actually says the UN sanctions will bite and bite hard. And Pyongyang's already threatened a nuclear strike. So what will be the Korean response now?
Well, the response that the DPRK is going to have, as they've stated in the Foreign Ministry as well as the Supreme Command of the Korean People's Army, that they are going to nullify the armistice agreement if the United States is going to continue with the provocations, with the war games. Who is North Korea playing war games with? Nobody. They're not practicing and preparing with other countries. They're on their own for self-defense, and that's all. That's the only opportunity, that's the only option they have. So for the United States to think that they can continue to provoke the DPRK without any kind of consequence, obviously Comrade Kim Jong-un is putting in his foot down and saying that that's not going to be able to continue without some kind of response. And that's only reasonable. It's the DPRK asking the world to treat it with dignity in order to have peace with dignity, rather than peace on the terms of the same country that backed up a brutal dictatorship that murdered hundreds of thousands of Korean people before the Korean War was initiated, whether it's the Jeju Island massacre or elsewhere in Korea. So I don't know. I find it difficult to say that the North is the wrong side of history. It seems to me that the United States has been on the wrong side of history.
Right, and also quite interesting, China, who's always been a close ally of North Korea, didn't use its veto power to block the sanctions. Why is that?
I think that the Chinese have their own interests in mind, and we'll continue to see how that unfolds, especially if things get more serious on the peninsula. I would, at least personally, I would like to hope that the comrades in the Chinese Communist Party consider it worth defending the DPRK should the United Nations. The last time the United Nations was involved, over 1 million Koreans perished. So I should hope that the United Nations is very careful about where it decides to send its troops, and specifically, I mean, the United States.
All right. General Secretary of the Korean Friendship Association in the U.S., Martin Joel, thank you very much indeed, Martin.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks.